Hi there. So I'm getting you ready to go travelling again because you know that we'll be able to. So I saw this little idea and I thought it was a great idea. So I found this beautiful Liberty fabric, which I absolutely love. And I'm going to use that for my project today. Actually, I'm just going to put my iron on because I just need to give it a little bit of a press because I've had it cut out for about a month. So it's about time I used it. So here's my fabric. So we're going to start off with a piece of fabric. We are going to have a very small strip of fabric, about 1.5 inches, to do some ties. And we're going to have some 2 1/4 inch fabric for bindings, because I'm going to be showing you how to make one of these today. So what this is, it's a little pouch, and it's using the plastic and ordinary fabric, and we have got in here our toothbrush and our toothpaste and a little flannel, and the top folds down and it folds like this, and you can just tie it together. So this is the fabric I'm using for the outer, so that's half and that's half, and then I've got 2 bits of plastic, one for the back and the other one for the pocket. Okay, really easy. So I use this toothpaste, so mine's going to be a slightly different size, and these toothbrushes are great, and this is the toothbrush that I'm going to be using, and there's probably a really easy way of opening this, but it doesn't really matter. We just want the toothbrush out. So I need to make mine a bit longer because I need that and that to be able to fit in there, so that's why I've made this a little bit longer. Okay, right. So first things first, I'll give this a little press. You do not need to have any stiffness in this really. It's just something you just throw in your bag when you go travelling. And you may not be able to go travelling overseas just yet, but I'm sure that you'll start seeing our beautiful country. Okay, so one's for the outer and one's for the inner. So I've just doubled it because there's no point in cutting the fabric when you don't need to. So you lay your 2 pieces of fabric down, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay on the back of this, we're going to cover this with a piece of plastic. So there's a piece of plastic there. So we're just covering it so that it's protected, so the inside won't get all manky. Then we're going to get our fabric here, our plastic here. Now, you decide when you lay these down, you can decide how high up you want your pocket, and you need to make your pocket, I've made my pocket about 2 inches, maybe about 2 inches wider to allow for making my toothbrush and my toothpaste fit in nice and tightly. Okay, so all I've done is got a piece of plastic, made it 2 inches wider, and then made it, when I've halved it, long enough that I can get these out. So there's no drastic sizing, but I will give you the size I've made for my one, and then you can decide if that's right for you. Okay, so that's all we need. We don't need that piece there. Then in the end, you can have it so you can just put a little, I've stolen this off my husband because it matched. So you can just make yourself or steal yourself a little flannel, and you want to be able to have it the size that will fit into your pocket at the end here. Okay, so I want all these things to go in. So I'm going to make this pocket fatter, this pocket skinnier, and this pocket a little bit fatter. Okay, so that's why you need the allowance. So the first thing you're going to do is you want this to hold onto here so that nothing's going to move and slip. So I've got my jewel feed foot on, and I'm just going to stitch this in place just on the edge so it's holding. There is no rocket scientist to this. It's just move your needle position to the right and just stitch it down to hold it. Okay? If you want to, you could put clips in it to hold it, but it's much easier if it's stitched down. Alright, once you get started, away you go, and just make sure it doesn't move before you get to the other end. Make sure it's all still nice and flat. There you go. And don't worry, because you're going to be trimming off any excess, so you don't have to be too fussy about it at this stage. So just sew down here and then sew up the side. So make sure it's nice and flat. This has been cut out for about 4 weeks, so it needs a little bit of a press. So once I've done this, I'll just give it a little press before I carry on. And I'll press it from the cotton side, not the plastic side. You can press this plastic with a covering over top. So I'm not going to melt it, so don't panic. Okay. So I'm just going to turn it on to this side and I'm just going to give it a light press. Just so it's sitting nice and flat. So pretty, this fabric. Okay. So now I've got my plastic here. And I'm going to stitch this down one side. The fold is at the top. See, I've just folded it and I've got the raw edges at the bottom. Oops, nearly missed my chair. So all I'm going to do is I'm putting my raw edges together and I'm sewing down one side. I'm now going to bring my raw edges together and I'm going to sew down the other side so it looks wrong. Don't panic, it's not wrong. So just bring your raw edges together and sew down the other side. Okay, then I can make my pockets. And when you're doing things like this, I will give you the measurements, of course, but if you're making something up and you're not sure, just put put your things you're wanting in there, and then you can come over and you can go, oh yep, that's going to pull out of there really, really nicely. So that would be about the right measurement. Okay, so I've allowed it, but I've actually used the product, and that's how I come to my measurements. Okay, so I've used the product to put in there. So this is how it would be flat. You put it in, and the allowance for it to come out and sit in there nicely is there. So it's really easy. So that's how I come up with these crazy notions. So all I'm doing is measuring that, and I'm going to show you that measurement now. So that would be my first pocket. So if I grab my tape measure here, it is 2.5 inches across. So this needs to be 2.5 inches across here, and it's exactly right. And I'm going to do a straight stitch straight up here, moving my excess to the right. Okay, so I'm going to push clear and I'm going to put my foot down. You will get all the written instructions so you don't have to think, but I'm just showing you how I come up with these things, and you just do it. Use your products that you want in there. You could use these for anything. Okay, so there's my toothpaste. The next one is my toothbrush, and I don't need much. So this is a totally different size than the fat one I used here for the children, so you do have to adapt it a little bit. So I'm just coming over here, and I don't need a lot because I don't want it to fall out, so that's going to be plenty. So this one will be about 1.5 inches. And you also make sure that you don't have it so it's going to fall all the way down the bottom, and it won't, because it'll be stitched across here and bound, so that's going to sit really well. So you just make sure you've got the allowance, and that is how I do it. And this one, I'll check it, but I think, as per my notes, I think it's 1.5 inches. Let's see if my memory's good. It was a long time ago. It's actually, I will make it 1.5 inches because I know the notes are, but it was one less than that. It is 1.5 inches. And see, there is a little bit of an allowance, but you don't need much because they're not fat. Okay? So 1 inch allowance, and we're going to sew all the way up there, and you can mark it with a pen if you need to. These are so quick and easy to make that you will whip them up for so many people because they are just so quick and easy and they're a lovely gift. Now all I did for the bottom was I made a little tuck. So I got my fabric, I brought it to the middle being the distance between here and here, and then I just flattened it and made a little tuck, and that made the allowance for my toothpaste. So I sewed one at a time. So I just made a little tuck, reversed it, really easy. There's no rocket science to it. So I'll show you on this one. So I just grabbed it, I brought it to the center, and then I just flattened it down. Okay? Too easy. And it's all going to be bound, so you won't see any of this. It's just your allowance. And the same to this one, bring it to the center and flatten it down. Done. You get your 1.5 inch strip of fabric and give it a press because you've left it so long it's got kinks in it. And I'm going to join these together to make one long strip. So I'm joining them together. I'm going to put my needle position over, so I just do a narrow seam. And you know it, I'm going to use my loop turner. So just sew down. And right sides together. If you want a skinnier tag, then you just sew it a wider seam and make a skinnier tag. You can make it whatever size you like. I like the fabric, so I might as well have it wider. And you know what I'm doing, my beautiful loop turner. So thread your loop turner all the way through. Hook it over the bar, and before you start pulling, make sure it has started to move through the fabric, and if it's caught, untag it. You can feel it. There it comes. All right, and keep the tension. Keep the tension on. Love my loop turner. If you keep practicing, you get really good at it. And then just give that a little press with the iron. You can put your seams to one side or down the middle, whatever you choose to do. I'm putting these ones kind of down the middle, but not really worrying about it too much. We don't have time. No, it looks too untidy. I have to do it. I can't do it. I was going to have it down the middle, but it looks untidy. So I'm rolling it to the one side. Okay. Because it would just always annoy me otherwise. Cool. And then we're going to cut this in half. Like this. You could top stitch this if you like. You're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to cut it in half again. So cut it in half and then cut them in half again, so you got little ties. You could, if you didn't want little ties, I like the little ties, but if you didn't want the ties, you could put a little bit of Velcro on, but I kind of like the little ties, are cute. Cut both of those edges off. Cool. Right, now with this you want to have your tags down closer to the end. So I've done a 2-inch marking. Yep, 2-inch mark from the hem, and then I've made the other one 2.5 apart. So that means I'm just turning this over, and 2 inches from the base I'm putting my first tag. and right side down. I don't like using pins and things like this. Clips, and what do we say? 2.5, 2.5 here, and put a clip. And the same to the other side. I can pretty much just line that one up. Right side down. And line this one up, right side down. And just double check. Perfect. Okay, I like to stitch that first before I put the binding on, because then I know that I can get rid of my clips and they're done. And then all you do is sew binding on and you have finished. Very, very easy. So just hold that in place, jump over, hold that in place, just get rid of that one, turn it around. If you didn't want to stop and start, you could just sew down again. It won't make any difference, honestly. There you go, done. Okay, so now you do your binding. So now you want to tidy up all around the outside edges. So if you've got a cutter handy, a rotary cutter, you could do that. If not, your fabric is straight. You just need to trim off your plastic. Get rid of the plastic. And it's kind of okay on that side, but the base isn't. So trim off the base and you are done. Now you have one thing to think about, and that is, it is just to carry my my toothpaste and my toothbrush and my flannel. So I really don't need to hand stitch my binding. So we can do it all by machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to join our two pieces of fabric together. I'll just throw on a little 1/4" foot. Here. And tell my machine what foot I've got on. And I'm going to join my fabric from here to here. So make sure if it's a one-way design, your birds are going up the same way. The birds are facing this way, the birds are facing this way. So I'm going to join my fabric diagonally across here, okay? So I'm just going to go from corner to corner and join my fabric first. Perfect. And I'm just going to cut a 1/4 inch away from there and fold that up. So now my fabric's all joined. So now I'm going to sew it onto here. Now you can choose whether you want to sew on the right side to the wrong side, this being the right side, this being the wrong side. It makes absolutely no difference. So I'm just going to fold this and I'll just put my join down the bottom here, and I'm going to sew from the right side and then top stitch from the wrong side, okay? Because it makes no difference. And with this one, I'm just going to overlap it. I'm not going to do anything too fancy. So I'm just going to stop here, start here, and I'm just going to do a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. Make sure your tags stay on the inside. Very important. Remember the rule of thumb, if you're doing corners, you're going to stop a 1/4 inch away from the corner. And you've got markings on your foot. I did have shown you before. And now I've gone one stitch too far. So stop a 1/4 inch away, turn and sew out to the corner. Okay? Remember that. It's a really good method. And then you're just going to fold it up and fold it down. And you're going to start from the top edge. Keep your raw edges together, and this time you're sewing over your little tags. Okay? So don't sew your tags, the ends of your tags, just where you've stitched them down. So go all the way down and stop 1/4 inch from the edge and do exactly what you've just done. And I'm not using I'm just using self fabric. One more, and then out to the corner. Okay, this just means it makes a really nice tidy finish. And out to the corner, here and down. Okay. I think they're a really nice gift to give people. Maybe get started on your Christmas sewing, not a bad idea. Especially, I think a lot of people are going to be home a lot more this winter, keeping safe. So it's a really good idea to have these little projects to help you get through it and to make you sew something a little bit different. I think these are really neat and very useful. So again, I've done my corner. I'm on my last 2 corners. Don't let your tags get caught in. I'm going to sew, knot the ends of those shortly. Very pretty with the Liberty fabric. And then sew out to the corner. Now for the last part, I'm going to do the last corner the same. I'm going to fold it up and fold it back. And I'm going to stop there, and I'm not going to sew this like I normally would a quilt. So I'm going to overlap this so you can see this is where my joint's going to be, but instead of sewing the way I'd normally sew a quilt, I'm just going to right side and straight stitch these ones. Okay, so I'm not going to do my normal finish. I'm just going to allow a seam allowance. And I'm going to just stitch these together because it's only small, so I really don't need to angle it and do all of the extra work. I'm just going to sew these together. Okay, so I'm just going to straight stitch them together, and then I'll open it back up and stitch the base. Got the edges together, yep. So just straight stitch it, bring this around once you've got to the 1/4 mark, start pulling it around and pin, take the pin out and stitch it all the way down. Okay, so you can see all I've done is a straight stitch all the way across there. Okay, so now I'm just going to open that back up and I'm just going to stitch that last piece. So that's a quick and easy way of doing it. When it's not a big quilt, you don't have to do any fancy dancy finish because it is just to hold your toothpaste and your toothbrush and your flannel. It's actually also a really nice gift to send family that come over to visit. Something really useful and practical. I think I'm into really practical things at the moment. I think everybody is actually. Now I'm just going to trim off here. Now you can do lots of different stitches to finish this, but Vanina have a little binding stitch that they use. So if you don't want to straight stitch it, you can go to the binding stitch, and it is in with the quilting stitches. So it is on this machine stitch number 1331, and I can leave this foot on. So what it does, I won't do it all, but just to show you, when you turn this over, here and here, make sure you bring your tag out. Don't leave it under there when you're going to be stitching this down, okay, because you want your tag to come over. So how the stitch works is it does I just got a mirror image it, and what it does is it does a straight stitch, and then it jumps over and does a tiny little zigzag. And that's the stitch we're going to sew our binding on with. Okay? So you can clip it all the way around. I'm just going to hold this to show you. Really clever. And that's how I'm going to sew my binding on. Bring your other tag out so you don't sew over it. And you can clip or pin the whole thing, and then you can either zigzag, blanket stitch, hand stitch. You can't hand stitch. Forget that. You don't want to hand stitch onto plastic. You could have if you'd done it the other way. And that's how I will finish it off, and that's how we make them. So they're cute. Cute and really, really, really easy. Bring this over to make your nice mitre. Okay, and I actually put a pin in there to hold that so that my fabric sits nice and flat. Bring my pin over and I hold it in that point right there so I know that that's going to sit flat. And then when I sew down to it, oops, I let it go. When I sew down to it, I know that it's going to be in the right position. As I say, and now I've let it go. There it is. I got it. Okay, and then you can turn and you know that it's all tidy. So I normally would clip this and have it all clipped, but you know, trying to save time. Just turn it on there. So you do want to match your thread at this stage because you're going from the right to the wrong side. And the same, bring that this way, and then this gets folded back and use your pin to hold it in place. Cool. Once you turn, you've got the needle down so it's not moving. It's really good. Bring your tags out. Bring your tags out so that you do not sew them down. Make sure they're square so they're not folded under when you do it. And this one as well. Okay, and again, I'm going that way and coming back this way. And by doing this, also it tightens that and it holds it in place for you to stitch. It's very good. So that's probably why I don't use clips on this particular one, because you're kind of moving it and holding it as you go. I think it's a little bit easier than clipping it. Cool. Needle down and turn. And there's your last one. And I've got a little thread there. And there we go. So now I'm going over a slightly thicker part because I've got a few layers of the plastic. So just go nice and slow. Make sure you catch it all in. Perfect. See, I can sew slow sometimes. Just go nice and slow over that. And make sure that I've got this nice and tight. There. And this is, do you know what? I think this is why I end up with bent pins. Because that's exactly what I do. I bend them because I'm always using them instead of my awl, which I must get out and hang around my neck. And there you have a really, really easy, cute little travel bag. Done. There we go. So there's my toothpaste and my toothbrush and a stolen flannel, and then this comes down this comes across, no, don't have to have that too far down, and this just winds up like this. And on the other one, I actually put a little bit of Velcro here and a little bit of Velcro here, which I think I'll do to hold those, and then you just tie them. And there you have it. Quite cute and very useful. Tie that one, and I'll put little knots in the end. And there you have it. It's cute, eh? The cameraman, I don't know what he just wrote, but shout out to the cameraman, because it is my husband and he's done an amazing job over the past I don't know how many years, and I think he's very, very cheeky. But I couldn't do this without him, so thank you, cameraman. And I think he's trying to tell me I have to go make him a cup of coffee. He's tried to make it really, really big and I can't read what he says. Oh, okay. Right, okay, so the cameraman has said, because yes, he is very cheeky, but what he said was, for men, you have to make it wider so they can have their toothbrush, their toothpaste, their flannel and their comb. There you go. There you have it. You heard it here first. So we have to make it wider for men to put their comb in. I don't have a comb, I have a brush, and I don't want the brush in with my toothbrush, actually. But anyway, a comb is a good idea. That's fine, you could do that. But Velcro here, oh, I'll show you. So what I've done is I've just put a little bit of Velcro here, so when it comes down it Velcros, and when it comes down it Velcros, so that when it folds up, it's nice and neat and tidy. And for this one, this is for Brooklyn. On the grandchildren's ones, I'm actually embroidering their names, so there's no arguments. And this guy on here is Ant-Man. He's pretty cool. But that's how I've done it, with a little bit of Velcro on both sides. And I put the names on the kids' ones so that they won't have any arguments. So there you go. So 4 little slots for men, 3 for women, or you can make it however you like it. But it's a great idea, but definitely the little Velcro is a good idea because it just covers that over. And having the plastic, it keeps all of this nice and clean as well. So there you go. There's another little idea, and I think it's a really good idea, and I think it's a really useful idea. So make them for yourselves, make them for your grandchildren, make them for your husband with a comb slot, and then make them for friends and family for Christmas. So have a good day.